Real quick before we get into the review, just gotta thank the people over on Patreon, because without their support, a lot of this upgraded content you see on the channel would not be possible. And I gotta say, on top of being able to respond to you guys in the DMs, you know, one of the fun things about the Patreon is every 3 months we do an anime and manga haul, and there's a lot of good goodies in that one. You also get sneak peeks at videos that haven't made their way onto the channel yet. I'm still figuring out what to do for actual YouTube memberships, so leave a suggestion down in the comment section below. But with that being said, thank you so much for all of you guys' support, and now let's get into the review. Yo, what's going on everybody? It's your boy Naruto Explained here, bringing you guys another review for Boruto episode 209. And now that episode 209 is done in the books, I gotta say, first and foremost, based on the episode preview and based on the promotional synopsis for the episode, I went into episode 209 with such low expectations. Like literally, I cut on Verve, I went to watch the episode, and I was thinking to myself like, okay, today's episode's gonna be Himawari goes to the zoo, doesn't read the signs about not feeding the animals, and Kawaki steps in to save her. I couldn't have been further wrong from the truth. I gotta say, I was actually pleasantly surprised at how character driven this episode was. And for anybody that might be skeptical, might be saying like, let me wait and see what the actual review is before I watch the episode. I know some of you guys will go back and watch the episode based off my review. No cap, I actually enjoyed this. And the first sign that we were actually getting something different than what we expected was in the opening, when you have Kawaki dreaming about Konoha being completely destroyed by Jigen. You see Naruto's dead body, Himawari's dead body, Boruto, Hinata, everybody just sprawled out, Jigen floating over Konoha, the village up in utter flames, and you see Kawaki being the only one left surviving. I love that. That let me know right there, like, okay, hold on. My expectations for the episode were completely off track, and I gotta say that was a nice surprise right there. Again, this was very character driven. So essentially, if you're up to date on the manga, I'm not going to go into spoilers, but if you're up to date on the manga, there's stuff that takes place in this actual episode that directly relates to things that are going on in the manga right now. So that was another nice addition right there, and this actually sets up some stuff that's going to be happening in the anime once the anime starts getting closer to adapting the events around chapter 50. So very, very, very welcome surprise. So the main conflict in this episode is a little bit complicated. So it does kind of start off with the whole thing of Kawaki isn't necessarily sure if he actually belongs in Konoha. He's blaming himself for everything. He's written this note essentially letting Naruto know like, hey, I'm leaving the village, you know, I don't want to put your family at risk. And you have this moment to where Kawaki's sitting up on top of the Uzumaki household, and Boruto's trying to talk some sense into him, saying like, yo, my sister's worried about you. But Kawaki, you can tell that Himawari's kind of latched on to Kawaki pretty heavily, because Kawaki notices that Himawari's acting very suspicious. Hinata's saying like, okay, hold on, I know I had some ham in here, the ham went missing. Kawaki's like, yo, it wasn't me, I didn't take it. Naruto defends him, saying nobody thought it was actually you. Turns out Himawari was stealing food out the actual house in order to feed this wolf that has been betrayed by his pack. And what I like about this is that what you essentially get for the short period where the wolf is a huge anchor in the actual episode, essentially Kawaki's telling Himawari like, look, you know, in nature, you know, it's not always best to stand out. You know, if your pack is wolves that have dark hair and you're born with white hair, you're gonna be something that stands out and you might be an outcast. And what I like right here is that Kawaki's essentially projecting himself onto that wolf that he and Himawari discover has been killed by a bear. So essentially Kawaki is looking at the wolf and saying, this wolf was an outcast, he was alone, this wolf had nobody that actually loved him. And Kawaki's looking at it saying, this wolf died by himself, that he had no business fighting alone. And he's looking at the wolf as him, and he's looking at the bear as being Jigen. And Kawaki's in a very strange place, because like I've said before, I can kind of relate to where Kawaki's coming from. I can relate to it well, which is when you're in a situation where you have people that love you, but you don't feel like you yourself are worthy of the love that people are trying to give to you, you find yourself looking for reasons to push them away. You find yourself looking for a reason to essentially stay away from them because number one, you can't accept the love they're trying to give you, and then number two, you're worried that you're going to do something to where they're not going to love you anymore. And so with Kawaki, he's kind of looking at it from that perspective, but also in his case, he's looking at it saying, the longer I stay here, I'm going to put these people at risk. This is a really good family right here. I don't want anything to happen to them. And Kawaki has legit PTSD over everything that's happened to him since he's been with the car organization for basically his entire life. And so Kawaki is trying to protect them from that, much in the same way that you have two different ways of viewing things on how this wolf died. So there are two interpretations. Himawari looks at it and says, well, if they would have actually stayed with him, the wolf could have survived. Kawaki saying, despite the pain that it caused the wolf that's the outcast, because the pack was smart enough to separate themselves from the wolf that stands out, no harm came to the pack. Sometimes you have to think about the greater good of everybody else and accept the sacrifice that one life will actually cost you. And so again, this is nice projection right here. You kind of see the struggle with Kawaki and what the writers are actually trying to convey to you in this moment. And I think there's something that really works. Having the wolf be an anchor and a reflection of Kawaki's soul is actually pretty brilliant writing. I actually like this a lot right here. Because again, Kawaki's the wolf and the bear is going to be Jigen and the car organization and the karma seal. Very nice symbolism right there. Because what you're essentially getting in this moment when Kawaki leaves Himawari as she's grieving and she's crying and mourning the loss of that wolf that she called Jaggy, Kawaki's walking through the village and he's made peace with his decision. He's like, okay, I'm gonna go ahead and leave. And as he's walking towards the actual A&N gates, you get this moment to where the last person in the world that you would actually expect to stop Kawaki from leaving Konoha actually shows up to do so. And that person is Shikamaru, the number one person who's basically saying, Kawaki, go live your best life, but go do so outside of Konoha. That's always been this man's position. Shikamaru is the one that stops Kawaki from leaving. He traps him in the shadow paralysis jutsu. And what I like right here is that Kawaki says, I thought you of all people would be happy that I'm actually leaving here. And Shikamaru, I love what he does in this moment because it shows real growth on Shikamaru's character. And I think a lot of people misunderstood. And I'm gonna be blunt. I'm gonna blame this on a lot of viewers actually being younger and not understanding the mind state of Shikamaru. So people are saying Shikamaru's been pretty much a prick to Kawaki, and I'll say this right here. What he says in this moment is that if Kawaki would have gone to any of the other ninja villages, none of the other Kages would have allowed Kawaki to come into the actual village. The only one that was naive enough to actually do something like this would actually be Naruto. And what you get in this moment is that Shikamaru really gets onto some real grown man shit right here, because he basically says, like, look, I don't agree with what Naruto did. I think you're definitely a security risk. However, he's my Hokage. I'm gonna do what he wants me to do. I'm gonna honor his wishes even when I think that he's making a mistake. And that's why I think that the misunderstanding comes. Yes, Shikamaru is being a bit standoffish with Kawaki, but you have to look at it from this perspective. It's Shikamaru's job as advisor to not only give Naruto advice, but also cover up for Naruto's weaknesses. And Naruto is a very naive character. Not everything is all sunshine and rainbows. And even though Shikamaru has moments where in private he kind of challenges Naruto, it's always on some respectful stuff. Even in the Shikamaru Shinden novel, when those two have a bit of a spat on top of the rooftop because they disagree with the major handling of a situation that takes place in that novel that deals with the Mujina bandits. But what you have to look at in this moment right here is that just like in the novel, they talk things out, and Shikamaru ultimately says, like, hey, you're the Hokage. I'm gonna follow you even when I disagree, but if things go sour, I will step in. And so it's the same thing here. He's thinking about village security while also trying to protect his friend from himself. But this is the difference with Shikamaru opposed to Tobirama, who openly kneecapped Hashirama during the first 5 Kage summit, where Tobirama's like, yo, you can't give out all these Biju for free. Danzo would have taken this moment right here to actually backstab Hiruzen Sarutobi to gain power. The difference with Shikamaru and those other two is that Shikamaru understands that in order to be a leader, and it's important to remember, Shikamaru and Sakura are the 2 8th Hokage candidates in this era. In order to lead, you have to be willing to follow first. And sometimes you're going to have to follow the lead of somebody who you think is making a major mistake. But after you speak your piece, there's only so far you can actually go. But at the end of the day, you have to respect the wishes of the person that has authority and superiority over you. And so what Shikamaru says is like, look, man, I think that you're an absolute security risk, but like it or not, you're part of Konoha now. You're part of the actual village. And if you think you leaving and going back to Kara is going to be enough, you can think again, because Jigen will come here. And in so many words, he's saying like, look, he's going to come here and he's going to get Boruto. So your problems are Boruto's problems. Both of you guys are members of our village now. Do not try and handle this by yourself. And on a side note, I got to say the animation team did a very good job in this moment artistically, because when you get that shot where you see Kawaki's eyes completely shaded out, it's the small things like that I would really love to see in the manga. We're going on almost 6 years now. Time to get that part fixed, because little moments like this do so much to convey emotion, and the anime knocked this out the park. And I like how Shikamaru releases the Shadow Paralysis Jutsu and basically says, Boruto, you handle the rest of this. And you see Boruto kind of talking Kawaki down after the fact, but this was huge in this moment, because Shikamaru's words really rocked Kawaki in that moment, because you can be told by somebody of like, yo, hey, best buddy, you're such a nice person, but sometimes hearing that praise from people that you expect to quote unquote have your back and have your best interest at heart, it doesn't hit the same as hearing that same praise or affection or acceptance from people that are the last people you actually expect to actually give you any type of praise. That's the difference right there. Kawaki's a individual, and again, I'm projecting myself here because I understand Kawaki's character, I can relate to it, but sometimes you get in a situation where it takes being accepted by people that are the last people that you would think would actually accept you for you to realize that you're truly welcome somewhere. So I mean, this was an okay episode right here. This is actually a lot better than I actually expected. Very character driven right here. And the highlight of the bond between Kawaki and Himawari is what makes this episode work so well, because it's something I've been screaming from the rooftops for a while now, which is the fact that it's gonna take a bond beyond that of what Boruto can offer from brotherly love and beyond that of what Naruto can offer as an adopted father to really give Kawaki a quote unquote home to actually have here in Konoha. After interacting with this 10-year-old girl and seeing how much she has a high capacity to love, even things and people that she probably shouldn't, Kawaki says, okay, I need to leave in order to protect her, in order to protect her family and protect this village that was able to produce somebody that has such a strong capacity to love. Because even in the real world, people like Himawari are so hard to come by. There are a lot of good people in the world, but there are also a lot of people who do not have your best interests at heart, will stab you in the back at any given moment. Just when you get comfortable, that's usually when the knife actually comes out. And for Kawaki, it's one of those things to where Kawaki understands I might harm her just by being in this close vicinity near her, and I could never live with myself if something like that happened. And I like that you see a very visible moment as when he's walking with Himawari, he gets a reminder of that dream that he had, which is really more so of a premonition. I love that. That does a lot for the actual character. You're seeing internal conflict rise up and you're seeing it manifest in an external way. My episode question to you guys is, how do you feel about Shikamaru telling Kawaki, like, yo, you're part of this village, whether or not you like it? And then the second question I have for you guys is, was Kawaki right that he needed to leave the village to protect it? Or was Shikamaru right? Was getting Kawaki never going to be enough? Was Jigen always going to end up coming to Konoha? Again, if you read the manga, you know the answer to that. So this is more so for anime only fans. But so always, guys, if you like anything I had to say, don't forget to comment, rate, subscribe, and share. Thank you so much for watching to the end. Have an awesome day, guys.